Why is it that no matter how much you try to save, work harder, or learn about money, you still feel stuck? Maybe it's not because you're lazy. Maybe it's because you've been lied to about how wealth is actually built. The uncomfortable truth? You'll never get rich fast, but you can get rich slowly if you do the right thing every single day. It's not what you think. It's not flashy. It won't impress anyone on Instagram. But the people who discover this quietly change everything. This video isn't for everyone, but if you're tired of chasing shortcuts, stay with me. You probably clicked on this video thinking, what's the habit? Is it journaling, meditation, some morning routine all the wealthy people follow? Or maybe you're wondering, why haven't I heard about this before? You've read books, watched dozens of videos, maybe even followed financial influencers who promise to help you make it. But deep down, there's a question you can't shake off. If I'm doing so much right, why does everything still feel off? This is where most people get stuck. They focus on systems, strategies, secrets, but they ignore the hidden daily habit that creates internal alignment, the kind that leads to quiet, consistent wealth, while everyone else chases the next shiny answer. The catch? It's not obvious. It doesn't feel exciting at first, and very few people actually stick with it long enough to see it work. But those who do change not just their income, they change how they move, how they think, how they show up in the world. You'll see why soon, but first, you need to understand what really keeps most people broke and unaware. I want to tell you about someone I knew, Daniel. He wasn't lazy. In fact, he worked harder than most people I've met. He read the finance books, followed the right people, took notes, built spreadsheets, hustled harder, yet somehow he was always behind. Month after month, Daniel felt like he was drowning in his own ambition. He wanted freedom, but all he felt was pressure. There was always something else to try. A new app, a better budgeting method, a quick side hustle that promised consistent income. He never stopped trying, and yet the needle never moved. I asked him once, "When's the last time you felt in control of your money?" He couldn't answer, not because he didn't know, but because the truth hurt. He was angry, not at the world, not at the system, at himself, because deep down, he knew he was smart. He knew what to do, but something in him always pulled him back, phase after phase, always restarting, until one day he stopped looking outside. He realized, every strategy I've tried, I quit after a week. It's not the information I'm missing. It's the internal rhythm. I don't stick to anything long enough to let it work. That was the shift. Because building wealth isn't about having better tactics. It's about becoming someone who naturally applies the basics without forcing it, day after day, quietly. Picture it like growing a tree. You can water it occasionally and hope, or care for it daily and know. Most people overestimate what they can change in 3 months and underestimate what quiet habits can compound into over 3 years. And Daniel, once he found his rhythm, everything changed. Not just his finances, his posture, his confidence, the way he spoke, the way people treated him. Because when you move like you're already free, the world responds to that. Daniel's breakthrough didn't start with more money in his account. It started with a change so subtle, most people would overlook it. He took out a notebook, not an app, not a timer, a simple notebook. And every morning, before screens, before noise, he wrote just 3 things. One financial intention for the day, one small personal boundary, one belief that needed to be reprogrammed. That's it. Example: today I won't buy coffee outside. I'll respect my 2-hour focus block. Money is not evil, it's oxygen for freedom. Why did this work? Because for the first time, Daniel wasn't reacting to the day. He was setting the tone. He learned that most people don't fail from lack of knowledge, but from lack of emotional centering. You wake up, phone in hand, reacting to everything, messages, feeds, stress, and in that state, no financial plan survives. This exercise gave Daniel direction and clarity in less than 5 minutes. It connected his beliefs, behavior, and goals into one flow. And here's a truth nobody talks about. Wealth doesn't start when you make more. It starts when your decisions stop contradicting your desires. By writing down what he wanted to act on daily, Daniel stopped being a stranger to himself. This wasn't a goal. It was an agreement, not between him and money, between him and his future self, but this would only work if he paired it with the second habit. Daniel realized something deeply uncomfortable. Every time he tried to change his financial life, he did it from the same identity that had created his problems. He still saw himself as someone who struggled, someone trying to get better. So all of his actions, no matter how well planned, were filtered through a lens of lack. That's when he added a second habit, 1 paragraph of identity-focused reading every day. Not financial tips, not 10 hacks to get rich. He read words that spoke to his future self, the version of him that already moved in integrity, peace, and control. It triggered something powerful. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to save money," he said, "I'm someone who protects my peace." That recalibration shifted everything, because you will always act like who you believe you are. This is why people self-sabotage, because their environment changes, but their internal image stays the same. After 30 days of identity training, Daniel didn't need reminders to be disciplined. He didn't feel motivated. He felt aligned. If I'm becoming someone who makes calm financial decisions, then wasting money genuinely feels out of character. The big shift: he stopped chasing wealth to feel worthy and started moving as someone who already was. And now his spending, saving, investing, all orbit around a new internal truth. But none of this works if your mind is constantly hijacked by noise. That's where the third habit comes in. The third habit seems simple, but it's probably the hardest. Daniel started protecting the first 30 minutes of his day as if they were sacred. No phone, no news, no emails, no quick scroll just to check something real quick. Just him, his thoughts, his space. Because every time he reached for his phone before grounding himself, his mind wasn't his own anymore. He was hijacked, emotionally outsourced, before breakfast. And studies back this up. Your first digital input of the day sets your mental tone. If you start with chaos, stress, or comparison, you carry that into every financial decision you make. That's how small distractions become expensive habits. Daniel didn't realize how often his spending decisions were triggered by stress responses. Eat out because he was overwhelmed. Buy something online because he needed a dopamine hit. Say yes to things just to fill the silence, or avoid it. By guarding his mind first thing in the morning, Daniel created room for real intention. If I give my focus away by 8 a.m., how on earth can I expect to live on my terms? Most people never become wealthy not because they're not smart, but because their attention is owned by everyone except themselves. Your time is money, but your attention is the currency of your future. Daniel stopped leasing it out to noise. But to truly reinforce these habits, you need a system of accountability. That's what the final habit gave him. The fourth habit was what tied it all together. Every night, before grabbing the remote or scrolling through his phone, Daniel asked himself just one question. Were my actions today worthy of someone who's financially free? No graphs, no data, just raw emotional honesty. This wasn't about guilt, it was about alignment. Even on the days he messed up, overspent, or broke his plan, this tiny reflection helped him realign without shame. It kept the loop open between his identity, his values, and his behaviors. Because here's the truth: you either inspect yourself, or life will do it for you, with interest and late fees. This isn't about being perfect. It's about noticing the micro shifts that make you proud at the end of the day. That's what wealth really is. Not millions in the bank, but the internal experience of knowing you're no longer betraying yourself daily. Daniel started sleeping better, not because he had more money, but because he finally knew why that money mattered and how to act in alignment with that truth. That's something most people never get. Their financial life feels heavy not because of zeros, but because it's disconnected from their inner compass. And when your days close with integrity, your weeks transform, your habits stick, and eventually, so does your freedom. Now, let me show you what happened after Daniel lived like this for 90 days. After 90 days, Daniel hadn't made it. No lottery win, no life-changing deal. But what did change? He had $3,200 saved, something he'd never managed in years. His spending was intentional. His confidence, quiet but unshakable. People noticed. They asked, "What are you doing differently?" But the truth wasn't sexy. It wasn't hustle. It wasn't grinding. It wasn't some new system. It was peaceful consistency, built on clarity, not pressure. Daniel didn't get rich from money. He got rich in mindset, in focus, in control, and that made money follow. "I thought wealth was something I had to chase," he said. "But once I became someone who lives in alignment, wealth started chasing me." That's the shift no one talks about. Not how quickly you move, but how deeply you believe that your small daily actions matter. Because if your identity stays stuck in scarcity, no strategy will save you. But once you stop abandoning yourself, wealth becomes inevitable. Remember when I asked why you still feel stuck, even when you're trying everything? Now you know. It wasn't about trying harder. It was about doing the right things, consistently, quietly, and with alignment. If you made it this far, it's because something inside you is done chasing noise. Most people closed this video long ago. But you stayed because deep down you're ready to become someone different, someone stable, disciplined, quietly powerful. So don't let this just be a video. Like it, save it, rewatch it when you drift, not for algorithm's sake, but for your future self, the one already waiting for you.